All right, so let's get right into it. For years, we've been told that virtual reality is all about the future, right? It's supposed to be this portal to brand new, mind-bending worlds. But here's the crazy thing. Some of the most exciting stuff happening in VR right now is actually coming from the past.
I mean, think about that for a second. It's a total paradox, isn't it? We've got this super futuristic hardware, the most advanced tech you can strap to your face. And what are its biggest hits? Games from the 90s. So in this explainer, we're going to dig in and figure out what is going on here. And there's a name for this whole thing. We're calling it the Nostalgia Renaissance. And listen, this is way more than just slapping a fresh coat of paint on old games. No, this is a whole movement. It's about developers having this big aha moment, realizing that the way those classic games were built, it's like they were secretly designed for the hands-on, immersive feel of VR all along.
So, here's what we've got on tap. We're going to look at where this all started, how it went from passion projects to a real business, why these old games are just a perfect fit for VR, how the gameplay is getting totally transformed, and then wrap up with what this means for the future of VR.
So let's rewind a bit. Where did this whole renaissance even come from? Well, it didn't start with some big company in a fancy boardroom, that's for sure. Nope, it started with the fans. For years, it's been the community, the modders, doing all the hard work, basically proving that people really want to play these old games in VR.
And you can actually trace the evolution pretty clearly. It all kicked off with these grassroots mods for absolute classics like Half-Life and Doom. Then, things got a huge boost with tools like the UEVR injector, which, by the way, is a game changer. It's this universal tool that can just inject VR support into tons of regular flat-screen games. That proved the concept worked on a massive scale, and that paved the way for the next big steps, getting official licenses and seeing whole studios dedicated to this pop up.
And if you want proof that people wanted this, just look at that number. Over 10 million downloads. And that was before this was even a real business. The audience was already there, starving for these kinds of experiences, way before any of the big publishers even thought to look. And this is where things get really interesting, because it shows the whole thing turning pro. You've got companies like Flat2VR Studio stepping in. Their whole mission is basically to take this fan-driven movement and make it a real sustainable part of the industry. So they go out, they get the official rights to these classics, and here's the best part, they partner with and hire the actual modders, folks from legendary groups like Team Beef, the people who started it all, to build the official versions. It's just this perfect pipeline from a fan's passion project to a polished, professional game. Okay, so we've covered the how, but now for the why. I mean, why do these old-school games just click so perfectly with our most advanced gaming tech?
Well, a huge piece of the puzzle is something you could call the boomer shooter advantage. We're talking about those fast, frantic first-person shooters from the 90s. The ones built on god-tier engines like the original Quake engine. Their retro look isn't just cool, it's also not very demanding on the hardware. And what that means is they can run buttery smooth on today's standalone VR headsets. That frees up a ton of power for the headset to focus on stuff like awesome VR physics and making the interactions feel real.
Yeah, and this quote about Wrath, Eon of Ruin VR, just nails it. The DNA of these games was basically VR ready from the start. All that focus on crazy speed, knowing where everything is around you, physically dodging fireballs, I mean, those were always meant to feel like physical actions. And VR is the first time we can actually do them. And this goes way beyond just shooters. Just look at how this applies across different genres. For a stealth game like Thief, VR takes situational awareness to a whole new level. Because you're not pressing a peek button, you're physically leaning around a corner. Or take a space sim like Alliance Tales. You're right there in the cockpit, flipping switches on the dashboard. They call that diegetic UI. The controls are part of the world. And for survival horror or puzzles, it's all about that hands-on, tactile feeling that just wasn't possible on a flat screen. And that brings us to maybe the most important point of all. These aren't just one-to-one ports. The really great ones, they completely reimagine how you play the game. They take what used to be a simple button press and turn it into a natural physical action. I mean, look at Thief. It's the perfect example. Back in '98, you hit Q or E to peek around a corner. In VR, you lean your actual body. There's no more little light gem meter on your screen telling you if you're hidden. Instead, the world literally gets darker around you when you're in the shadows. And lockpicking? Forget about some abstract minigame. You're holding the picks in your hands, you're feeling the lock tumblers click. It's a total game changer. And you see the same design philosophy everywhere. In Star Trek Infection, you want to use your phaser, you don't bring up a weapon wheel, you physically reach down to your hip and pull it out of a holster. You want to do a Vulcan mind meld? You literally place your hands on a character's head and pull the triggers. Even saving your game becomes a physical thing you do at a station in the world, not just some option in a pause menu.
It's so cool, they're even rethinking the user interface itself. In RAF Eon of Ruin VR, power-ups aren't just little icons anymore. They're actual physical objects you hold in your offhand. You have to literally throw them or break them to use them, all while you're in the middle of a frantic firefight. It just completely changes the feel of the game.
Okay, so let's zoom out. What does all this mean for the future of VR? Well, this whole nostalgia renaissance, it's not just a cute little trend, it's actually pointing towards a much smarter, more sustainable future for the entire industry.
And you know what's great? It isn't just the big official remakes. The indie scene is absolutely on fire with this stuff too. They're not just remaking old games, they're recapturing the spirit of them. You've got games like Proton VR that just nail that classic high-speed shooter feel, or Riddlewood Manor, which basically takes the old point-and-click adventure and puts you right inside of it. And Alliance Tales? Man, that's giving every 90s space sim fan the in-the-cockpit fantasy they've been waiting for their whole lives.
So, when you put it all together, the big takeaway is this. By building on these classic, beloved games, developers are taking a lot of the risk out of making new VR titles. They have this huge library of proven ideas to work with, and that's a really good sign. It shows that VR is finally moving past that early phase of just being cool tech demos and into an era where we're getting real, deep, satisfying, full-length games.
And really, that's what this whole movement is about, isn't it? It's about finding that brilliant, timeless game design from the past, and finally, giving it the physical, immersive, three-dimensional life that you just know the original creators dreamed it could have.
So, that just leaves one big question for you. With this awesome trend basically building a bridge between the past and the future of gaming, what's the one classic game world that you are dying to finally, truly step inside?